Whoa, holy smokes. Guys, welcome back to the show. I hope you are feeling good. Yes, the environment is different. I am traveling right now, but you know what? That's okay because the conversations are still going to be the same, and I am still here to bring it to you. So, guys, let's go ahead and jump right in. So, there's a couple things I want to talk about today. One is about RFK Jr. and just this crazy moment where he just recently went viral, and another reason as to why he should get confirmed, as well as White House press secretary, some amazing words that she said yesterday. And another one that I want to talk about is an MSNBC host, which is freaking out on the line, and she just shared something, maybe accidentally, but I think it's just further proves that Democratic Party is crumbling, and that it doesn't have a leader, it doesn't have a hero. And I just want to go ahead and talk about it because it's crazy what she says. Okay, but I want us to start here because this is with RFK Jr. and he's at the Hispanic inaugural ball, and I saw this whenever it happened that day, 11 days ago, during the day of the inauguration, or actually the day before the inauguration. And I didn't post, I didn't share it, right? It wasn't in that video, I didn't include it, but I did think it was amazing. And this is where RFK Jr. is speaking Spanish, right? And I thought it was impressive, but there were other important conversations to have that day, so I didn't show it, right? But Beheezy tweets George, he just posted it and it got over a 500,000 views. And I'm like, okay, well, now I'll go ahead and talk about it, just because I think I do think it's important, especially because it resonated with people. So we're always going to talk about the things that other people are talking about, right? So checks out. George says RFK Jr. showed up at the Hispanic inaugural ball and stunned everyone by speaking fluent Spanish. He goes on to say, "What can't this guy do? Just another reason why he must be confirmed as Secretary of HHS." Now, this is remarkably impressive. All right, and whenever I was watching this, I was like, "Holy smokes, he is Spanish is pretty good. It is definitely possible." So check this out.
Buenas noches a todos. Es, es un gran placer estar aquí con ustedes esta noche. Yo estoy aquí con mi esposa, Cheryl Hines, y también muchos miembros de mi familia que están en el cuarto esta noche.
That's so good. Come on, that's amazing. His Spanish is on point. Whenever I saw this live, I was uh I was just sending this to everyone. I'm like, look at this. You speak Spanish. It's amazing. Right? I'm like showing my parents over here. And I'm like, hey, I told you. RFK Jr. He's a man of the people. And we've been knowing that he speaks Spanish, but just to see it just go like right off the cuff, it was incredibly impressive. Right. So RFK Jr. definitely wants to make America healthy again. And these are just some of the comments that I saw off of this post. And it was someone saying, okay, but Taco Tuesday is off limits. Someone else says, shows you this man is educated, not because he spent time in school, although he has, but because he spent time doing things. Incredible. Derek Evans, very impressive. Confirm RFK Jr. I love it. Billy Cotter out here saying, someone explain to me why the tolerant left judges people who tell someone they will look better if they lose a few pounds with hatred and vitriol screaming and fat shaming, but they have the audacity to make fun of RFK Jr.'s voice and Cash Patel's eyes. It is flabbergasting. And I'll actually answer this one. And the sad and terrible truth is that although the left loves to say that they love diversity, they actually hate the diversity of thought. They hate the diversity of perspectives. And the tolerant left is actually not so tolerant of any different ideas or perspectives, which is terrible, because ideas and perspectives, they change the world. They make the ideas better, not worse. And I also saw this from End Tribalism real quick. I saw this morning, and he says Maha supporters were criticized for trusting that President Trump would follow through on his support for RFK Jr. I am so sorry about that. Also, I'm using a new microphone. I've never traveled with this microphone before. I hope it sounds good. I actually really like this microphone. This is one of the handheld ones, but I thought it was pretty nice. Kind of feeling like handheld microphone type of day. All right, I kind of like it. Let me know what you think about it. How's the audio? How's the audio? Or how's the conversation? Okay, let's go. Sorry about that. All right. And then he nominated RFK Jr. for HHS. And now he is reposting Nicole Shanahan's posts in support of RFK Jr. Say what you will about President Trump, but he is keeping his commitment to Maha. And I have no doubt he is fighting like hell behind the scenes to get RFK Jr. confirmed. I told you guys the other day, I really do think that President Trump will unleash hell if RFK Jr. is not confirmed. And I do think there's going to be some workarounds, even if that's on the table. But we'll go ahead. We'll go ahead and talk about that, whatever that ever pops up, which I don't think it will. But yeah, okay. So the next thing I want to share is White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt, she had another press conference yesterday, which is crazy, right? And she just absolutely crushed it. She demolished the feat, and I just thought it was incredible. But there was this clip that went absolutely viral yesterday where she's talking about pretty much the end of DEI practices, and I just love how eloquent she is in explaining this kind of conversation to a reporter who's frankly had a pretty nasty question. The question was searching for blood, but she delivered it with grace, and I love it. So check this out.
The president has made it very clear that this is a common sense solution to solving some of the problems that we have seen at the Federal Aviation Administration, and also when it comes to many of the federal agencies across our government. People should not be hired based on their disabilities, based on their skin color, their gender, their race. None of that matters. What matters to this president and this administration is how well you can do your job, and the American people agree with that sentiment. So it's about competence, skill, and merit. And so the president is focused on ensuring that the most competent individuals, the best and the brightest in this country, are in positions in this federal government, especially when it comes to public safety. Can't overemphasize the importance of those jobs. The president has made
That is so good. Holy smokes. And you know what? Looking back, it's hard because it's hard to think that that was ever something controversial to say. Like, yeah, we want to hire the best and brightest people for the job, and like it's not ignoring that. It's not ignoring that there's different people who live a more difficult life, but it's actually saying, you know what, your 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 struggle or your environment or whatever thing that you think is actually hindering you, that actually doesn't define you. Okay, and we actually do not want to identify you by your disability. We don't want to identify you by your orientation. Like, look at this picture. It says, I don't give a f about your skin color, sexual orientation, gender, religion, or politics. I just want you to do your job. And here's the thing, I think DEI at its core is a way to politicize and almost identify people by things that aren't actually relevant to the quality of job that they could do. And it's actually, in a way, discrimination to identify people by other traits other than how well or how high of the capacity that they can actually contribute and do the job. So I think this is a really good call for the Trump administration. All right. So moving forward, I want to go ahead and I want to share this. This is just 30 seconds, right? But I love what Lindy Lee says here. She says that Trump has done more for the American people in the past week than Biden did in the past 4 years. And this is something that I've been feeling internally. So the fact that someone else is thinking about this and vocalizing it is actually really, really important. Check this out.
What an upgrade. Caroline Leavitt has upgraded the stature of the press office so much, so significantly in just the past 48 hours. It's like night and day. I can't even believe it. And she didn't have a binder. She didn't have to consult her notes constantly. She knew at the top of the head, of her head, what the topics were about, and didn't have to, say, we'll circle back like Jen Psaki constantly said. So this is truly night and day. I'm really impressed. And I'm speaking as a former Democrat. So
yeah, no.
Absolutely. I'm telling you guys, and going back to what the White House released, saying that President Trump has done more in the first 100 hours than any other president has done, like point blank, period, in all of American history. So really, really powerful stuff. There's another thing that's happening right now, which I also think is powerful, and it is that the current DNC chair right now, I know they're actually hosting, I think they're having an election. Yeah, they are having an election right now as we speak. But the current DNC chair actually just sat down with CBS News, and he actually said a couple of things, one about Kamala Harris, the other about President Biden. And I want us to go ahead and talk about it before I go ahead and play this this clip with an MSNBC host, just because this is really, really important. But actually, I'm not even going to share this clip, but I will just read it real quick. So Democrats want Kamala Harris to run again in 2028. And he goes on to say that he really believes that Kamala Harris like had a chance and that he'd be okay with running her again in 2028. But there was a note here that I thought was incredible, because the interview asked if Democrats should have stuck with Biden. And I think the easy answer is like, oh no, like no, of course not after the debate, XYZ, no. But Jamie Harrison actually responded with saying, "That's my normal default. Is that you stick by your people, right? Particularly people who worked hard on your behalf." Right? He says, "I went into this thinking you've got probably the most successful of my lifetime legislative president, who has poured tons of money into making sure that it's not just Joe Biden and Kamala Harris getting elected, but Democrats elected, not just in battleground states, but all states who support a lot of resources in his own time and his own time fundraising in order to strengthen the state parties." But then he hits a roadblock. When he hits a bump in the road, do we stick with him or do we jettison him? That's the mentality that I had going into this. And my nature is, I'm on the team with you. You're my quarterback. You got sacked a few times, and you know what? I'm going to block the hell out of the next person that is coming at you. Wow. And it's not always a mentality of everybody in my party. And sometimes people look at the sidelines ready to call in backup. So it's interesting. So right now we're seeing this, that Jamie Harrison actually didn't want to run Kamala Harris, and he was actually very okay and satisfied with continuing to run President Biden even after his horrendous performance at the debate. That is crazy. And to me, it's just further proof of how on the verge of collapse that the Democratic Party is right now. And we're even hearing this from members of the party. Like, look at, just watch this video, because MSNBC was boots on the ground at the forum in which a bunch of people who are running for the DNC chair. And check this out. This is just really surprising to me.
Thanks, everybody. Simone Sanders Townsend here.
Hi, I'm Jen Psaki.
Hey everyone, I'm Jonathan Capehart, coming to you from Gaston Hall in Healy Hall at Georgetown University.
We, myself, Jonathan Capehart, and Jen Psaki are co-moderating the DNC Chairs Forum,
where we're going to hear from all of the remaining candidates who are running for DNC chair
on their vision for where they would lead the party if they're voted in as the next DNC chair.
Look, I know sometimes people in Washington, D.C. can get a little too inside baseball, and there are critics out there that say, oh, this race is very insidery. It doesn't matter. But it actually does. It's actually very important. The next DNC chair and the leadership that is elected 2 days from now, they're going to decide how the primary process goes the next time Democrats select a Democratic nominee and attempt to take back the presidency in 2028. So it's actually very important. This person will have outsized influence in a party that, frankly, doesn't have a clear leader right now.
I'm really excited about asking them about a range of things. Clearly, the Democratic Party needs to figure out a better way to more aggressively message moving forward, to be more fearless. I want to hear what ideas they have for that. I also want to hear how they're going to raise money. Raising money and funding state parties is a big part of what the DNC chair does. And I want to see what differences they have. There are differences between all these candidates. That's interesting and important for us to pull out tonight, and I think we're all focused on that.
I'm really interested in how they're going to combat misinformation and disinformation. Some talk about it specifically on their websites. Others have things that are kind of general. This is the opportunity for me to ask them specifically what they're going to do.
Okay, so there's a lot here that I am genuinely really, really surprised of. I guess the first thing I want to say is, for one, we hear this idea that the Democratic Party right now has almost like a messaging problem. And we also see that with Simone Sanders, she says that the Democratic Party doesn't have a leader right now. Look at this. See, this person will have outsized influence in a party that, frankly, does not have a clear leader right now. And we've been talking about this a lot. So I want to go ahead and talk about those two ideas right now. One, aggressive messaging, and two, frankly, has no leader. Frankly, admitting that the DNC is essentially leaderless. And this is one of the questions that Peter Ducey was actually asking KJP on her last day, like, who's the leader of the Democratic Party? And she tried to say that Joe Biden was the leader of the Democratic Party, and that's just that just couldn't be further from the truth. So I want to tackle those two conversations. And for one, I want to say I actually don't think the Democrats have a messaging problem. I actually think the Democrats have an idea problem, because check this out. I think I'll probably get canceled for saying this, but some ideas require refining, right? And other ideas require abandoning. It's not just about doing the right, it's not just about doing the thing right. It's about doing the right thing right. Like, you can't just do the wrong thing the right way. You need to be able to do the right thing the right way. And I think that goes directly to kind of their idea of messaging. Like, we need to have more aggressive messaging. We need to have better marketing. We need to be able to serve ads better. And even they just talked about, like the money aspect and the fundraising aspect. But I think they're losing so much of the core of their ideas. Like, I don't think Republicans won in 2024 because of a better marketing. I think they won because of better ideas, and people have been unsatisfied with the performance of the ideas that President Biden ran on in 2020, right? And you can argue a bunch of other things, but I think at the core that's what I believe, right? So I think it's dangerous for the Democratic Party to focus so on messaging whenever they're not focused on the idea, right? It's almost like taking a present that's bad, but trying to wrap it up in like the best type of wrapping paper. It's like, I don't care about the wrapping paper. Like, what's inside? What are you selling me? What am I actually drinking? What am I actually eating here? What's the substance? So, and I've seen journalists on the left admit this too. Like, they say that they have a messaging problem, but I'm like, no, you have an idea problem, and that's a very, very important thing, right? And going back to Sanders, kind of talking about how this person will have outsized influence, and there's no leader. Like, I talk about this in the newsletter that I published recently, the heroes, villains, and other guys of the political arena, and I talk about kind of this idea of heroes and villains. And right now, President Trump is the hero of the Republican Party, and President Trump is also the villain of the Democratic Party. But the Democratic Party has no hero. Who's the hero of the Democrats? Who? Joe Biden? You're absolutely wrong. Not a chance. Not a second. I don't even want to entertain that idea. Okay, I don't even know who the leader was the past 4 years, because it was starting to fluctuate towards the end, right? And it was just crazy. And maybe you can argue that it was a good thing, because President Biden surrounded himself by people who did X, Y, and Z. But then people would push back, because over the past week that we've had this Trump administration, we've seen his people actually, they're open, they're transparent, they're holding conferences, they're holding press briefings, they're actually serving the public, and you could see it. And it's those very tangible things that you could, like water is now being flooded in California because they're actually serving people. And they said that the LA Times just reported saying that is actually a direct effect of an executive order that President Trump sent out. So you can't tell me that there's almost they're equal here. But I do want to share something right here in my newsletter. I write that I'm talking about the left versus the right in terms of media, and I wrote that there's a villain overload happening right now, right? Because I write, if your entire narrative relies on a single person, where do you go next? what happens in 2028? What's the future of the Democratic Party when you lose the one singular rallying point, which is President Trump? And you know what? Jamie actually talks about this in the interview with CBS, because he says, well, you know what? He frankly, like, I'll be honest, he kind of says that President Trump was unbeatable, right? Except for Joe Biden, just because his influence was so massive and his reach was astronomical. But he's saying, what happens in 2028? Well, in 2028, he says politics are essentially going to go back to, politics as normal, because President Trump will not be on the ballot. He cannot be on the ballot. So, and that's why I think this idea is just so dangerous, because they need to be able to have a hero to counterback, because we're going to see two heroes build up over the next 4 years, right? And it will be someone other than Trump, because it has to be. Is that going to be JD Vance? So there's a lot of people who are thinking Gabbard. There are a lot of people who are still thinking RFK Jr. Who's the next hero? So we're going to be seeing that build up, right? And we already are. But the Democratic Party, they don't. I write no hero to counterbalance. You can't just have a villain. People need a hero. The left has invested so much time in tearing Trump apart that they have failed to elevate anyone else as part of the conversation. And I write this one line. I really like the sentence. Sometimes you just write a sentence and you're like, oh man, that's a good sentence. And I write this saying, if the Democrats have no hero, they will have no future. And I believe that. I believe that. Also, guys, if you could hear my stomach grumbling, I am so sorry. I really do apologize. I'm about to go eat some food, so it's good. But I wanted to get this. I wanted to get this conversation out into the world, just because I think these conversations are so important. So, anyways, that's the video. That's the conversation that I really wanted to have today. And yeah, I know we kind of jumped around today. We were talking about RFK Jr. People are still rallying for his confirmation. We don't know when it's coming. He had 2 confirmation hearings. That's all. I think there's going to be some sort of private internal vote before the entire Senate votes. But even then, that hasn't been public information, so we don't know when that's actually going to come into fruition. But people are still talking about him. People are still talking about him. President Trump is retweeting things like with Nicole Shannon, and I'm really excited. I think this administration is surpassing a lot of people's expectations so far, and I think that's a good thing. And I also think what's happening on the left right now is really interesting. I think they're scrambling. It's almost like they're almost at a really big inflection point for their future. And like I said, personally, I want to have a strong Democratic Party. Right? I've been very consistent here. Even though I don't necessarily always agree with everything they stand for, I think it's the best interest for this country that we have a strong Democrat Party and we have a strong Republican Party, and we have good independent parties as well. Because if all of those are strong, same thing with libertarians, if all of those parties are strong, then our country is stronger. All right, let's elevate the best people to the top, and that way we bring the best and highest quality of conversations to the national level. So I believe that, and I love that. So I hope the DNC, I hope they nominate someone who is just incredible, and I hope that they have good ideas, and I hope they build their future on ideas more so than just messaging, more so than just fundraising. Like, yes, those things are important, but it's almost like I don't know if you guys have seen this incredible movie. It's called Jurassic Park, but there's this amazing scene with Jeff Goldblum, and he says, I believe this is that movie, but Jeff says, you've been so focused on seeing if you could do this. You never stop to ask yourself if you should do this, right? And that's, I think, it perfectly resembles the idea that ideas matter, and what you actually spend your time doing. It's not just about doing, the thing right. It's about making sure you do the right thing right. So So if that's my plea, I think that's my plea to the Democratic Party right now. I think that's my plea to the DNC. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Anyways, that's a conversation I wanted to have. But let me know what you think about this. Kind of a long one today, but totally okay. All right, guys, let me know what you think about all these conversations, from RFK Jr. to Nicole Shanahan to White House Press Secretary to Simone. All right. And I will see you all next time. I hope you guys have a great and beautiful, wonderful day. All right. Have a good one. Episode's over already? Geez, that was fast. Well, they say beautiful things do not last forever, but feel free to watch and listen to another one of these episodes if you're interested in those conversations as well. Also, this next part is huge. Make sure to obliterate that like and subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you never skip a beat. I also have a newsletter where we dive into the news, politics, and ideas that shape our future. If you're interested in signing up, I'd really appreciate that. Anyways, that's the end of this episode. Thank you so much for watching and listening, and I'll see you next time.